school's out, blame corona, but I still got some science I could show ya. No class, no school, that's cool, throw the class on the YouTube. Even if they shut the school down, I'll get that knowledge anyway somehow. Real scholars won't stop for corona. Tune in for that science takeover.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to Mrs. Finney's science class. Shout out to the HB Warriors, to all of our subscribers, and to all of our visitors from my house to your house. Let's learn science. Today, we are in the reading further section. What will we read about today? We're talking about giants of the forest. You think of giants of the forest, what do you think about? Like giants or just something really, really tall? Let's see. Today, our learning objective, I can explain some unique characteristics of redwoods. Have you ever heard of a redwood? What is a redwood? We'll see. So here in our reading, it starts off and it says, before Columbus ever set foot in America, a coast redwood seed sprouted in northern California and began to grow. Approximately 600 years later, when the tree was discovered in 2006, it stood 112 meters tall and was still growing. Imagine a height of 65 adults standing on one another's shoulders. This tree, called Hyperion, is known as the world's tallest tree. But many redwoods grow to extreme heights. Question, why? All right. So here it says it's in the genes. Like all organisms, a coast redwood tree's traits are determined largely by its genes. One of these traits is extreme height. Coast redwoods are much taller than most other trees. While investigating redwood genes to try and figure out why, scientists discovered something curious. Unlike most other plants and animals, which carry only 2 copies of chromosomes in each cell, coast redwood cells carry 6 copies. Go figure. Some scientists speculate that having that many chromosomes that carry potentially 6 different copies of each gene allow the tree to make more or different proteins for growth. In addition to extreme height, another genetic trait of this species is long life. The oldest known living coast redwood is at least 2,200 years old, and forest rangers think others may be much older. At around 600 years, Hyperion is only a teenager in redwood tree terms. Can you imagine that? 600-year teenager? Oh, just getting started. Some scientists who study these trees hypothesize that coast redwoods grow so tall just because they live long enough to do so. Coast redwoods have several other traits that may help them live long and grow tall. These traits also are determined by the genes that they inherited. For example, tough bark that is more than 30 centimeters thick helps to protect Hyperion and other coast redwoods from forest fires, decay, and disease. Additionally, nasty tasting chemicals in the bark keep insect pests like termites and ants from chewing the tree and harming it. Coast redwoods also have a shallow but widespread root system that absorbs lots of water and nutrients from the soil. Let's take a look at what we've been talking about. Check this out. Huge, clearly. See the size of this person compared to the tree? Says a lot. Okay, and then take a look down here. What's this about? So coast redwood trees have 2 kinds of needle-like leaves that contribute to trees' survival. The branch with wide, flat leaves at the left came from the lower part of a redwood tree. The branch with the small, narrow leaves at the right came from the top of the tree. Okay. Cool image. The power of leaves. Hyperion and its relatives have another unusual genetic trait that may help to explain why they grow so tall. They produce needle-like leaves of different sizes and shapes at different tree heights. When the tree is young and short, it produces wide, flat needles. Leaves with this shape have more surface area and are well suited for collecting the small amount of light that penetrates the forest to reach the ground. As the tree grows taller, the top portion of the tree produces new needles that are smaller and narrower. This size and shape are better suited for the greater temperature extremes, stronger wind, and brighter sunlight found at greater heights. Thus, each redwood tree has two different kinds of needles at different heights of the tree. Redwood leaves also hold a key to supplying water to the tree. Water in the form of fog will come into contact with the needles on the top portions of the tree, even when there is no rain. Scientists knew water from the fog condenses on trees' leaves, so they did an experiment to find out where the water goes. They collected wide leaves from the lower branches and narrow leaves from the top. The scientists soaked both in water and then measured how much water they could squeeze out. They found that the narrow upper leaves absorbed much more water than the wide lower leaves did. Narrow leaves contained tissue that swelled up, allowing them to store 5 times more water than they could use. This water storage trait helps a tree, like Hyperion, survive when water in the soil is scarce. The right location. As a coast redwood, Hyperion was genetically predetermined to be tall. But if it had sprouted anywhere other than along the northern Pacific coast, it might never have grown into a champion. Hyperion had the genes to be a giant, but something else was needed. That something else was its environment. How does the environment of the northern Pacific coast help the coast redwoods grow so tall? The northern Pacific coastal environment is located in a narrow strip along the Pacific coast from southern Oregon into central California. Within this strip, the climate is mild and wet, an ideal habitat for this species of redwoods. Inland from the coast, there is less moisture and temperatures are less even. Members of a related redwood species that grow inland do not grow as tall as those that grow along the coast. Let's take a closer look at how the coastal environment affects the growth of coastal redwoods. I want you guys to take a look at this picture. All right. And this is the location of coast redwood, inland redwood. All right. Reaching for sunlight. Reaching for the sunlight, so bright. Okay. The coastal environment is often foggy, and sunlight can be hard to come by. Like all plants, coast redwoods need sunlight to provide the energy they need to live. In order to collect as much sunlight as possible, coast redwoods like Hyperion grow tall as they reach for light. Lower branches of the tree, which are not exposed to much sunlight, die off as the tree grows taller. The tree spends its energy making leaves in the upper branches of the tree that receive more sunlight. Absorbing nutrients. The northern Pacific coast gets so much rain that nutrients are quickly washed out of the soil. To grow as tall as they do, redwoods require a lot of nutrients from the soil. Shorter trees of other species that grow among the redwoods shed their leaves every year. These dead leaves are worked back into the soil where they decay, providing valuable nutrients for the redwoods. The wide, shallow root system of coast redwoods allows them to absorb nutrients from the upper parts of the soil before they are washed away. Getting water. The northern Pacific coast gets more than 180 centimeters of rain a year, mostly in winter. While other trees usually take in water from the soil through their roots, this is more of a problem for the tall coast redwoods. The taller the tree grows, the harder it must work to pull water up to the top. Fortunately, the tall redwoods are fog drinkers. They take in additional water from condensed fog through their top leaves. Fog is an important environmental influence because it acts like a natural watering system for the redwoods. The fog that condenses onto the tree's wide lower leaves drips to the forest floor, supplying almost half of the water the tree needs to live. Fog that condenses on the narrow upper leaves of the tree is absorbed by their water storage tissue. This water can then be used by the leaves. During the dry summer season, the Northern California coast is often covered with a thick layer of fog that rolls in from over the ocean. Most plants don't do well in foggy environments. They rot when surrounded by so much moisture. Redwoods, however, are resistant to decay because their bark is so thick and tough. Check them out. This is such a beautiful picture. Look at that. That is pretty. So cute, so lovely. Adjusting to change. Climate change may be affecting moisture and sunlight levels all along the coast. In the past 50 years, the number of foggy days has decreased by 30%, which increases sunshine. Coastal redwoods seem to be growing more quickly in this new climate, but scientists are worried about how redwoods would survive if the foggy days decrease further. And that is our wrap up for our reading further. Okay? So learning objective, I can explain some unique characteristics of redwoods. Make sure you share what you learned about redwoods in our reading further section. We're getting ready for what? Lesson 11. Moving on to more science. Let's wrap up with our outro. Here we go. It's been fun. It's been real. We break it down and pick up science skills. Give yourself 2 claps just for tuning in. Come back, meet tomorrow. We can learn again. Oh, it's been fun. It's been real. We break it down and pick up science skills. Give yourself 2 claps just for tuning in. Come back, meet tomorrow. We can learn again. Have an awesome rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow. Peace.